Berke Sulek, hello from Amsterdam. Hello. As you might remember, I am Turkish. Now I've discovered that my paternal haplogroup is E-V13. Does it really mean anything, or is it too far back in time? E-V13, let's see. Oh, yeah, we did pull this up. I remember that now. So the question, does it really mean it? Well, I mean, it does mean something. It's just that it means something. Oh, wait, this is, I don't think that's it. That's something, that's something else. Okay, but, it means something just in terms of, what the E-V13 haplogroup is. It's just that if it's not a very, trying to think of how to word this, but basically if it's too far back in time, in a sense, so if it's E-V13 traces back 2,000 or 3,000 years, then it doesn't really tell you much of what happened in the past 2,000 to 3,000 years, but it does give you an idea of what happened 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and then further back. So you get a much, more generalized idea. Whereas if you do a much more nuanced test, let's see, YFull. So if you do a much more newer test, then that may give you a much better idea. So, okay, so E-V13 formed about 8,100 years before present to most recent common ancestor about 4,800 years before present, that being at a 95% confidence. Okay. So at a 95% confidence. So, that is pretty far back. Let's take a look at some of the further info. Load, there we go. So, I mean, map-wise, it gives you an idea of, where the most people, here this is who's tested on YFull, which can be biased based on the, people testing. If it's largely people that are testing from the English-speaking world, there's going to be a bias of people with, English-speaking ancestries. And, oh, yeah. So, yes, you can see these are all the different people that are under it, the STRs associated, the SNPs. And so the two most recent common ancestors. It wasn't the map. I thought there was a way to get better map, but let's look at a chart. So this is another way to kind of look at it, which is too small. Okay. Where's Papa? So this is kind of the family tree way of looking at a haplogroup. So here's your E-V13, most recent common ancestor about 4,800 years ago. And then from E-V13, there was this haplogroup, this EZ1057, where there's 3 terminal SNPs. Or I don't know if they'd all be defined terminal, I guess, but 3 SNPs associated. And then that has a brother branch way over here, somewhere right here, where there's 26 SNPs, and then that has these descendants, whereas this other branch you can see over here expands out much, much more. All of these are descending from this one, so this is what haplogroups are. It's just a family tree up the paternal line for everybody. So you're somewhere in here, and if you can do a big Y test or whole genome sequencing or something to get the full thing. So here's a simplified chart of the tree. Let's go back to the classic view. So, that's E-V13. So if you can do something to get a much more defined haplogroup and then get into these different trees. So there's the YFull tree, there's the family tree DNA, phylogenetic tree, there's Upedia's tree. But you can see, you know, the samples, this is just a person. And you can see all of the different tests that people have done. So it's not just family tree DNA where you can get the in-depth Y DNA testing. You know, Nebula is where I did my in-depth Y testing. So it's a whole genome sequence test, which whole genome sequencing does autosomal DNA, mitochondrial DNA, and Y DNA, whereas this family tree DNA Y500, that is only doing the Y chromosome. And then over here, statistics, you can see the details on it. So like with Nebula, it has a much bigger, you know, source of data. And the 49X, that's the times of reading it. So the number of reads through. But you can see, you know, all these different people that have tested. And if you can test, then you can compare and do all that. So you'd get something out of having the haplogroup, but it certainly doesn't tell you a ton, I guess. You know, it's much more, it gives you a good idea of your more ancient history.